Well, let us forget that we both work humdrum, mundane, soul-sucking corporate jobs and try to remember that we like each other for 1 hour and bring some god-dang entertainment to the masses, my dude. Let's try that for 1 hour. Let's pretend like we like each other.
All right.
I got nothing else. That's the hardest the cold open's getting today. That's the amount of energy I'm putting out there. It's going to be a great episode. Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 23, I believe I checked right before we started. 23. David, it made me think we're getting so close to like a 30, then a 40, then 50, and we would have done 50 of these things, dude. Oh my God, I feel like a sense of accomplishment, you know what I mean? Did you ever think you would do something for that long, David?
No. Because it's one, because in doing anything that long with you, obviously frustrating, not what I want to be doing, but I'm pushing through, which I think is a good sign. And the other thing is, like, I feel it just kind of perfectly reflects our ages as well. Like, it's just like, oh shit, keep getting older and older. The back keeps getting worse, and maybe that's what happens with the show. For some reason, the show outlives us, and I think that's the plan.
My name is Brian Ortiz, or as I like to say, son of Orti.
You should like to say it's amazing. My name is David Castillo, which is less amazing. But David Castle is the translation.
Which is an amazing, sturdy name, just like you, my dude, with a strong, sturdy base.
Man, like my last name might as well mean construction, right? If you just translate it to construction, you get a sense of like what I have to deal with. It's not that exciting. I know you want. Look, I know you're pushing for it. I appreciate it, but no.
Some Hispanics out there have to do construction, David, and you are the man that's building this country, so I appreciate you for it, bro.
Oh, man, son of a bitch.
But I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. If you're here, you know what you're getting into, and I'm going to make this short because, as I've said before, David's annoyed that it goes on forever, so that's what it is, all right? The name of the show is Life's a Wreck, and what is life but nothing more than a series of reactions to educational conversations with one another. Two people kind of know each other-ish, sort of, trying to get to know each other better through the use of pop culture, social lubrication, and through those conversations, we learn a little something about ourselves. Short and to the point. David, how was that?
That actually felt longer than the initial ones. I don't know what's going on.
Damn it. There is literally no pleasing you, son of a bitch. God damn. God. All right. This is start to a great episode. Glad everyone's here to witness these moments between us, because if I told someone else, they'd just think I'm a crazy person. David, I like to start off every one of these shows and by asking you, man, it's been a bit. How are you doing, buddy?
I've been better, so, even though I've, kind of luck-sacked into a new job,
yes,
it's sort of, there are growing pains and, of like kind of the variety. So we were talking about it before this episode and kind of talking about, the kind of new model of like work culture. And it's so weird that the old one even exists. This idea that, well, hey, I'm paying you, so I get to treat you however I want. As opposed to like, well, no, that's my money that you have in my pocket because of what I'm good at. So there is no excuse, to kind of.
How long do you think it's going to take for corporations to cycle out of this old system, right? We've heard all these awesome dream jobs that do all of these kinds of things where they offer you all these amenities. The management's really nice. Some people, the pandemic has changed the work a lot in a lot of areas because of being remote and people just staying at home and being happier sometimes. Like, how long do you think, how many years do you think it's going to take for us to get out of this old, staunched 1950s corporate work culture attitude of like, we own you, do what we say, and shut the hell up?
I think when the government like stops hating women, for example, we can look at that as like a marker, for change. And listen, it's to me, True. it's part of the capitalist culture. And I know we're not here to kind of talk about like quote unquote politics, which I don't think, what is political about saying, well, shit, this is part of our tradition is like, well, money, the economy defines kind of how we treat each other. Well, that's not
true.
political. That's just like the nature of the beast. That's, how it's always been.
That's what we live in, man. It's something we have to accept. I'm sorry to say, you know what I'm saying? I wish we lived more in a Star Trek utopian where we don't need money and all we want to do is progress humanity. But you know what, man, we are not there yet. It is still pushing down women and pushing down those Hispanics, or as David likes to say, Latinos, or Latinx, or whatever nomenclature that you prefer, David, because I get lost every time.
I don't like Latinx. Let me just throw that out there. But
oh, my God.
But listen,
remind me again, what is the preferred one?
To me, the preferred one is ask somebody. Ask them what they prefer to be called. That's just as simple as that. But
it's so difficult.
I think if you want to go general, I think Latin American's fine. But again, we're getting way off topic. But hopefully you kind of know where I'm going with this or getting my vibe.
So that's how your day is going. Gotcha.
Oh yeah, how is your day going, Brian?
Oh, well, thanks for asking, David. Let me tell you about my day. You know what, dude? It's been a very. Thanks for asking. It's been a real lethargic day, man. I've had a hell of a 2 weeks. I've had to go to a funeral with my other side of the family, which, as many of you probably heard on the podcast before, I have a very weird relationship with. That's my dad's side of the family. I did my whole life growing up, so I was definitely on edge most of the time, man. I was definitely on edge, and I had to go back to my hometown, which I never go to because I don't want to. So it was a lot of heavy-duty emotions. 37-year-old man going back still being, like, freaked out about having to deal with family issues, right?
I mean, you sound like a Zach Braff movie.
Maybe my life is a Zach Braff movie, dude. And you know what? That's okay because those movies are dope, in my opinion, and I grew up loving them, okay? They're beautiful movies, all right?
Get the fuck
Wish I
out
was
of
here in Garden State. Chef's kiss. Give them all to me. No.
I'm done. I'm going to turn this off.
Okay, great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new podcast called Let's Talk Garden State, where we talk all things Zach Braff, ladies and gentlemen, between his careers in television and movies. David, you can be a special guest if you want, my dude.
my God, dude.
I love upsetting you. No, but man, it felt crazy to have to deal with that kind of stuff as someone who's not emotionally stable as they should be. But silver lining, I learned a lot of new stuff. I shed some misconceptions about some family, and I reconnected with some, and I straight up met cousins I didn't have. On my dad's side, like I heard that they had existed, but they were like, one was like a baby, one didn't even exist yet the last time I saw them. Met them this time, and you know what? They're awesome people, and I don't know if they'll ever listen to the show. Maybe they will. I hope they do. But let me tell you what, they were awesome, dude. I fell in love with them. They were awesome to talk to, had such a great history, and they have such cool careers, and so that really helped me feel good. Exhausting as it was really nice to connect with my aunts again and see my sister and really connect with some cousins. So all in all, even though it was for a sad reason, silver lining, growth as an individual, level up, get a little achievement unlocked status thing above me, you know what I'm saying? Depression slightly less, you know what I'm saying? Family connected, like something cool. So not too bad, man.
It's I'm glad to hear that, man. As much as I just sometimes can't stand you, and again, it's gotten even worse with the Zach Braff love.
Right.
I do want to see you succeed, especially when it comes to like family connection and shit. Like, because again, us Latinos, Latinxes, Hispanics,
David, Hispanics
gotta stick together.
Hispanics, right, David? Your favorite trademarked word, Hispanics?
Was it trademarked? I mean, I guess like I guess that was Richard Nixon.
Richard Nixon,
like,
trademark Richard Nixon. Yes, yeah, our favorite president, Richard Nixon, trademarking Hispanics. David, I hope to talk to them more, man. That's the goal. Is I got away from it, and I hope to get to chat with them more and maybe visit them someday because my family's kind of spread out, so it'd be cool to visit different parts of the United States and get to see them. So that's all I'm doing, man. Doing the best I can every day. Family. It's a hell of a thing, man. It's a hell of a thing. So, but don't forget to check out my new podcast coming soon, Garden State Talk, where we all talk all things Zach Braff. David, we've talked so much about what's going on with either of us, but, I did want to share, after the funeral, I came back here, and my special lady friend came into town. I got to spend some time with her, even though we didn't get to do too much because, as you know, we live in Texas, and for some reason we had the hottest goddamn heat wave in the weekend possible. Literally the devil's butthole is just burning up the central Texas. So it was a goddamn nightmare. All we had to do was like stay in and try not to burn to death.
Oh my God, you didn't go to any place I recommended.
Nowhere. We went nowhere. All we did was lay in fleshy pools of sweat and try not to die, dude. That's what was happening for the whole fucking week, okay? It was so goddamn hot. But you know how I like to keep things hip and cool on the podcast, David. We did go see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness because it came out this week. And I know that you're dying to talk about it, David, your number one thing. But don't worry, I'm going to spare you the pain, dude. In honor of that movie, which I'm sure you haven't seen, but are you planning on seeing it, David?
Fuck no.
Okay. Big old no. That's what I thought. It did make me think about magic. And magic in the sense of magicians and maybe, you know, the fantasy magic on the side, but mostly about magicians. And it got me to think about how I remember when I was a kid, I was obsessed with magicians, like probably most young kids were. And I wanted to be a magician and I wanted to practice magic. And I believed in it. And I loved it so much. And the TV specials were always on and I would tape them on my VCR and watch them over and over again. And it was such a fun time in my life to do that. And so my question that I guess I was talking about, we've talked about all kinds of stuff, and I've heard your rants about capitalism, about race, you know what I'm saying, about nihilism. So my question is, David, do you believe in magic, David?
You know what, man? I'm going to say yes.
Actually, dude, that's 100% not what I thought. I really thought you were going to say no. Okay, let's see. Let's talk about it, David. This is great. Okay, David. I say magic in the general sense. So when I say, do you believe in magic, where are you coming from? Like magicians or the spiritual magical idea? Where are you coming from when I say magic? What did you think of when I said that?
I think of exactly what Alan Moore has kind of talked about, which is magic as the idea of sort of, magic through the perspective of storytelling.
Ooh, nice.
I kind of think of like magic as sort of almost kind of like the sort of flair of uncertainty, and which is really what freedom is.
Ooh.
You know, you think of like freedom as like a concept. Yeah, sure, we have like our kind of American idea of like freedom, like, well, hey
sure,
man, freedom is like, fucking, taking a gun into the Walmart, or like,
goddamn American rights, David. I could open carry into a Walmart.
But I think of freedom as like a lot scarier. To me, like freedom is basically just uncertainty. Sure, you have the freedom to play Dungeons and Dragons on a tabletop in the middle of the freeway. You have that freedom.
That is true. There is no more dangerous version of D&D than freeway D&D, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you what. That's the most hardcore D&D you could play, my dude.
And you've got experience with that.
All the time. I almost died 7 times trying to play. There's nothing like a semi-truck coming when you're trying to roll initiative, dude. It is crazy.
So I think that's where I land when I think of kind of magic, right? Because, yeah, sure, I have a very... a quote-unquote scientific, secular kind of idea of the world. But, it's also like a lot of shit that just doesn't make sense as well. Even the things that make sense don't make sense. And so I think of magic in terms of the kind of, that sort of the theatricality of like the unexpected. And that's kind of, and sort of, and again, as like someone that's trying, again, we're going to plug the novel again.
Mm-hmm. Plug the novel, David. Here we go.
Plug. I really like what Alan Moore says when he kind of talks about how it's no coincidence that a lot of the gods of lore, the mythic gods, the sort of the scribes, tend to be the kind of the most powerful. And so I like that kind of concept of like storytelling as kind of its own magic. Just like not having access to anything physical, and yet provoking very physical responses in people through like cool characters and interesting plot, just great world building, whatever the case may be. So that's kind of how I approach it from the kind of perspective of like philosophy, writing, and so forth. So I don't think of it as like Merlin's hat with the high school football player waiting to punish me for it.
That was very specific at the end. That was a very evocative, specific image at the end of how you explained magic with a football player being some guy. I think in your high school you imagine some like me walking around with a wizard hat, being like, "I'm gonna throw fireballs," and some jock just shoves me in a locker and teabags me.
I thought that's what you were going for. I thought this like actually happened to you.
No way, dude. I was a cool kid in high school, bro. I played Magic the Gathering. Huh? Huh? Your favorite game?
Well, I didn't do that until college, which I guess like
what
is
a
technically
loser,
either
Dave.
technically
What a
worse
fucking loser.
or technically
Start till
better.
college. I'm gonna shove you in the locker for not starting until college. You puss.
Okay, you need to follow this up. Why are you asking this question?
Yeah, sometimes I think that in this world there's so much bullshit, and we were just discussing the angsty, angry corporations that we work for half the time. So, sometimes it's beautiful to believe in magic, and magic comes in various amounts of forms, right? I like the way you just described it. The power of story, right? A piece of something, some untangible idea or concept that is so strong that it moves an individual or a group or a nation sometimes, just through the power of a story. That's beautiful, man. That truly is magical. It's something that we almost can't describe, and yet it's also a feeling and something that consumes, right? And I think that in these times, in these trying times, when you can't offer you an egg, it's really important to find something that we can hold on to. And magic is something that I have always loved. I think it's a beautiful idea because magic can also be something positive, right? And it can really move everybody or take them away for a second or make them believe in something that can't be believable or unrealistic, I've always been a fan of street magicians and big time magicians. So like when I was a kid, and I'll ask you the same question. I remember those big TV specials with like David Copperfield, right? Of course, we knew Siegfried and Roy in Las Vegas with their tigers. David Copperfield made the Statue of Liberty disappear, just crazy stuff. Eventually, David Blaine came out and was doing street magic that was blowing people's mind. And you could see these people just flip out for that one moment, for that brief second that somebody pulls something off, they think the impossible happened. And that's a beautiful idea that is kind of created. When you were younger, David, when you were a kid, do you remember watching any magical specials on television from magicians?
No.
Never. Not one.
I mean, I was familiar with like David Copperfield, and I think eventually maybe saw some David Blaine stuff, but for the most part, like that stuff didn't interest me.
So in your household, there was nobody was interested in seeing magic or talking about it in the entertainment traditional sense, right?
Actually,
Making
yes.
things disappear, sawing people in half, like
sorry
that kind of
about
stuff.
that. Actually, yes, because my dad, when he was obviously younger, when we were young, my dad did like to do like clown stuff, like traditional, like the pin, the balloon, the juggle, stuff like that. Yeah, he did that stuff. And it wasn't like a paid gig. It was just stuff that he thought was, kind of like with the Santa thing. This was like something else like my dad was just kind of do on the side, which is, yeah, now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I did grow up with that stuff.
Where did that come from? Like, when he was a kid, did he see something and was like, I want to do clown magic? Like, where did that stem from?
I don't know. I should ask my dad personal questions about himself.
Did any of that rub off on you? Do you know any magic tricks from your dad?
I don't. I think because I think we were so young and it only happened for like, I don't know, maybe like a kind of like a 2 to 4 year stretch. And so maybe that's what it was. I think he still has some of that stuff too, like the rings and
oh yeah, dude, those are classic.
like he had a full setup. And even now with my niece, like he'll do like a puppet show for her, and stuff like that.
Oh man, that's nice.
But again, like it goes back to, for the most part, man, like sports was kind of like what we were brought up in. And I think maybe that's why, like, I felt like maybe something about like sports and magic being kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum is kind of how I viewed that at the time. So magic, man, it just wasn't. I don't know. It's weird. It's funny. Like I love magic when it's just a cardboard game and it's like strategy and artwork, but.
I feel like you hyper focus you have a lot of like nerd hate, but then you take all of that nerd stuff and you shove it into magic, and you're like, everything is stupid except for magic. You have like a hyper specific like gateway, and it's the Magic the Gathering. Cardboard cards and fighting with land masses and dead horses that have like necromantic powers.
Romantic. And the other thing too I'll say, which is that listen, like, okay, can I ask just one request?
Okay.
Don't say shit about Doctor Strange. I don't want to hear about it.
Right. So it's pretty good, David. Let's talk. All right, for the next 30 minutes, I want to talk about Doctor Strange, okay? Because we want to bring up our SEOs, and I want to make sure that people can find us in the chats. You know what I'm saying? So we'll start off from the very beginning. All right, Doctor Strange #1. I'm just kidding, Dave. We're not. I know that you would literally quit the show.
I like how you say SEOs like an old man talking about the internet's plural.
You're welcome, David. This is how we get on TikTok, because we got to mention Doctor Strange, dude.
I get it.
I don't know why you hate Magic and Doctor Strange so much. Is it Benedict Cumberbatch? Is that why? Are you anti-Cumberbatch? Are you anti-Cumber? Is that what it is?
I think there is a discussion here that can definitely be like served for a full episode. So I'm not saying I won't go there. I'm just saying, listen, you catch me in a vendetta kind of mood, and you tell the angels in heaven you never seen evil so singularly personified as you did in the face of the man who's about to kill you, which is me.
Gotcha. So you're anti-Cumber is what we're talking about here. That's the takeaway from this.
I think the takeaway was I was trying to do the true romance quote, or try to get that true romance quote right.
You know what? Nothing says nothing says tags and how to find us than hot topics like true romance. The hottest of hot right now.
What are you talking about? Like Christopher Walken is like the most like memeable actor. Or one of.
I'm sure if I go to Google, like what's hot in Google right now, I don't know if True Romance and Christopher Walken are busting up. But that's typically us, right here. I'm trying to push the conversation into Doctor Strange, and you want to talk, True Romance. That's perfectly us in a nutshell, my dude. Okay, I will steer the conversation back to what we were talking about. So, as I said, David, after watching the wonderful Doctor Strange in theaters now, ladies and gentlemen, check it out. As we're recording this podcast. So my question is, when you were so you think back to when you were a kid and your dad is doing magic, or maybe you saw a couple of magic. This is before you started like going into sports and started hating nerds and magic and all that kind of stuff. Do you remember an internal sense of wonderment when you would see these things that you couldn't explain as a kid? Do you have any memory of being like, oh, wow, excitement?
No.
Were you a cold, dead child, David? Is that what happened? Were you alive at all? I'm just curious. Are you dead?
I'm trying to, the things that like excited me as a kid, this is going to sound terrible, was violence.
Oh my God.
Because again, to me, where I found like magic, Three Stooges. Like that was my magic as a kid, which is seeing like, grown men bodies tossed through like 3 floors of bunk beds was like my magic. It's hard. Like I feel like I'm trying to like get at kind of what the underbelly of kind of what you're asking, and I think magic, the kind of magic that you're talking about, is I think something that needs to be presented well, and I think especially like for me, and maybe part of it's like, the communities that we grow up in, either like suburbs or just among other Latinos, it's just, I don't.
Thank you for saying it like that. I appreciate it.
I don't think of magic as like something that really, I honestly think there is a cultural element here, which is that, our families, especially our generation, like didn't really have time to play around. It's like, yes, they could always play with us. They could always support us. They'd always be a big part of our lives. But magic kind of felt like playtime in a way that maybe my parents' generation didn't understand.
Well, that's interesting because, with our devil's advocate, like my mom used to love magic specials, and she would gather me around the TV so we could watch, David Copperfield disappear a tank or something like that, or an elephant. You know what I mean? I wonder what does that say? Like, do you think it's a regional thing? Do you think it's just an individual thing that would make somebody do that to their kid? Be like, you have to see this. This is amazingly cool and wonderful and magical and all that kind of stuff.
That's a good question. I wonder if part of the allure to magic, as you think of it, is maybe kind of like a quote unquote symbolic of privilege. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't mean that in like, oh, freaking rich.
What the hell?
Yeah, like in rich people way. I just mean
So I was. So let me get this straight. I was privileged enough to not worry about the world. So magic was wonderment, where you were like down in the real world, and magic was bullshit because the real stuff was happening, like violence.
I think, what could be more real than violence, though? Let's face it.
The real magic is violence, folks. That's real magic right there. That's the truth, baby.
Yeah, man.
Interesting, David.
I don't.
Interesting.
It's really it's fun. It's crazy, like this kind of olive branch you've kind of created out of like a topic that just feels like irrelevant and maybe even like anachronistic, right? I mean, it's like, talking about magic is like talking about like, oh, you remember life as a carny? And you don't remember what that was like? By the way, one of my friends used to be a carny, and he said that was just like the worst experience of his life.
Oh my God! I can't imagine that'd be awesome. Like, I mean,
yeah,
but as a child, you think I'm going to run to the circus, but the reality is it's probably really poor wages and management half the time.
No, 100%. Yeah, I didn't. You don't put those together though, like in your head, like right away.
No,
it's just like,
no.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a really shitty job.
Yeah, well, you think it's like, again, when you're a child, running to the circus is magical, David. You see what I did there? It's fucking magical. I guess my bigger question too that I wanted to ask, like the bigger concept that I'm trying to figure out, David, is like you always have the portrayal of a child who was born with like just no emotion half the time. Like, I didn't believe in magic, I just believed in violence, and capitalism was real. But I can't believe that that's true. And the way your parents sound like awesome people, I just feel like there had to have been something that really sparked you to believe in something that's impossible when you were a kid, or maybe older. You know what I'm saying? For example, we still experience magic. How many times, here, I'll relate it to you. How many times have you gone somewhere and gone to like the best taco place in the town and be like, have what's quote unquote a magical experience eating a taco? Have you never had a magical experience eating food?
No, that's a good point. Yes, I have. When they were a taco truck, the carne asada tacos from Chiliquil, that was the best taco I had ever had.
Really?
I could not believe this thing existed just on just like a mundane street, Broadway in San Antonio, and just amazing. Unfortunately, they were so good that it actually got into a really nice area, which is the Pearl, which, if you're from San Antonio, you know what it is. Less good, but, that's... definitely food has kind of inspired magic. I think it's funny, man. It's like you talk about, I do think there is a magic to sports. And the reason why is because anytime you watch, right, you watch basically to witness the unexpected, right? We all follow, like the underdog story is like, and practically a tradition, and something that, we always kind of, look towards. And so, don't forget, my dad was an amateur boxer. Like, I loved that sport growing up. And
that's true.
Nothing was more magical than, and I know this sounds like, just fucking crazy, but like nothing was more magical than like somebody getting like literally like just beat the fuck up. Like to a point where,
violence.
Yeah, to the point where like, you're talking about like brain injuries and like broken bones, right? And yet somehow rise above, like somehow like win the fight or turn the tide or endure that level of pain and then like exert it. Yeah, it's just like, I mean, there is something as brutal as that sounds, I think there is something magical to that. And I think that's why, even if my sort of frontal lobes are telling me like, hey man, somebody's getting hurt here, you shouldn't be watching this traffic accident in slow motion.
Right.
There's just that childhood experience of like, man, how incredible for people to do something their bodies should not be capable of enduring, and yet somehow coming out better on the other end.
Some people would be worried that most of your experiences as a child are related to violence somehow, technically. Like, when is the first time you fell in love? I saw someone get beat up one time, and I fell in love with the sport of boxing. You know what I mean? Just saying, there seems to be a lot of connectedness to violence.
That's
for some
true.
reason,
I'm
as you
not
put out.
denying that. Like I really, that really was right. The violence in movies, right? Loved violent movies. Loved violent
What about the
sports.
magic of movies? Was that a thing for you? Movie magic, if you will. How did they do this?
The magic was in the violence. You know, like again, and that and actually, listen. Let's not judge me too harshly, right? Because The Thing, incredibly violent film.
Sure.
That was magical. That was like freaking one of the most like adrenaline, like just one of my favorite movie experiences of all time was just seeing The Thing as a kid and just being blown away by how like gross and disgusting and visceral it was.
So even when you were like, because I know that there was a point that you must have hit where the idea of magic was not entertaining to you like fantasy, like, but to your best recollection, even as a 5-year-old or even younger than that, anywhere around that young age of adolescence, did anything seem, was anything that you couldn't explain magical to you?
No.
You were born with a perfect mind.
Well, that's the irony, which is that like I wasn't like Nicole, for example, who was a precocious child. Like there are children that maybe maybe are not as gullible, but they turn that lack of gullibility into actively smart kids. Right, creating stuff or learning stuff. I wasn't that kid, man. I was just a fucking doofus that loved video games and violent movies. Again, here we go. Like, and even the games that I loved, they were all violent. There's fighting games, like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. But yeah, I think for me, you grow up, your dad being like an amateur boxer, being so proud of it that he's always watching videos.
Right.
And legit, like growing up with violence, I think in a healthy way though. I know that just sounds impossible right now, and maybe that's kind of what it was. As a kid, I saw the craftsmanship in violence, whether through Three Stooges and the way it was presented, and so yeah, these are
Learning
things,
so much.
These are the things that were magical to me, and I know it doesn't reflect well on me. But I would say
I love hearing you trying to justify all the violence in your life. It's very, very pleasing. There's a reason everyone gets beat the hell up. It's beautiful. There's nothing like cracking someone's nose and watching it break. It's gorgeous. It's fucking magical.
let it be known, I've actually like never like physically assaulted anybody. I do want that.
The magic is that you've never fought someone. That's what's fucking magical, dude. So I'll end with this big question then, because now that we have kind of a sense of your childhood and your magical, what it means to you and where you find magic in this world, for all that you are, you still see magic. Then how are you so attracted to Magic the Gathering of all things?
So I actually have the perfect answer to this.
Great. I'm all ears.
For those that don't know how magic works, I'm just going to explain just 5 quick things. It's not even going to take a minute. So in Magic, in order to cast spells, you do so with access to one of 5 colors. There is the color black, which is usually associated with disruption, demonic spells, etc. There's white, there's blue, there's green, and there's red, associated with fire. And red is my favorite color.
Of course it is. Of course it is, David.
So the kind of philosophy of fire is how I, strategize in Magic, because I do play competitively, right? So I mean, it's not. This is not just some bullshit like, oh, hey, my favorite color's green because I see it on it's the color of my ice cream that I like. No, this is like,
it sounds like you're throwing shade on 12-year-olds that you compete against. Is what it sounds like.
I think I am, and I've lost to some 12-year-olds. Man, that's the worst part.
So, David, there is something magical about you defeating a 12-year-old in a competition, which I would love to see myself personally someday. I would actively go. I would drive you like a parent to a competition, and I would actively watch you defeat people because that sounds fun. So, is there something you enjoy about the idea of the magical world of Magic the Gathering that really hits you? Is there something about it that really is unexplainable, just like the magic of story? Is that where that comes from and your love of that game?
I would say that's correct, man. So one of the things that Magic has is a lot of really awesome, incredible artwork. Not always.
Sure.
But, and so, when you have access to like all of your lands and creatures and spells have interest in artwork, you're able to kind of within that strategy also kind of craft a story. So, so like that I think is the thing that, you know, makes me most attracted to Magic, which is that you have a strategy game that also combines storytelling in its own way. Now that's obviously left up to the player, yeah, because I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of players that are just like, no, man,
Interesting.
I don't want to like casting my
Very,
spells.
very, very interesting. That's really interesting, man. How
Well-
I really enjoy how we've gotten. I've understand your view of Magic and how that actually applies to your favorite game, which is super fascinating.
Well, so a big part of competitive Magic is not just the actual playing, and I guess, you know, for you being like an artist, you can kind of sympathize with that sort of
Sure.
gardener versus architect sort of kind of dichotomy.
Sure.
With what, but you know, so like there are players that play extremely well, right? They know how to sequence their spells in exactly like in almost mathematical fashion. But another key to being a good player is also, for one, building a good deck, and so that deck building aspect is part of where I think that storytelling like enters into it for me.
Interesting. Gotcha. Man, again, to my surprise, I know that by the way, you in this podcast, as you've dogged on as my usual comic book stuff, like, you know, watching Doctor Strange 2, The Multiverse of Madness, out in theaters now. Check it out as recording this podcast. You dogged me for that. You've dogged me for all of my nerd stuff. My Kroll board game in the back, not a poster. And yet you continue to say things like, to quote Alan Moore, one of the most prolific comic book writers of all time, as well as playing Magic the Gathering. You, sir, are just a nerd. You're just like, there's this jock on the outside, man, but I'm telling you, inside the strap, there is a nerd at that nougaty center, dude, and I just know it. I know it. I feel it every day. But you're fighting it, David. You're fighting it. It's magical to me that you fought it for so long. That's the real magic, David. You fought it for so long.
And I did. I would not, you know, like, you know, especially in college, you know, when I started playing, I would not tell girls that I played Magic. I kept that shit secret.
Dude, you're so...
Yes. It was truly embarrassed. Like, just
Oh my God. It's like a scarlet letter for you, dude. Just a Magic the Gathering scarlet letter on your chest.
I even got angry at my dad when he told one of my cousins I played Magic. I mean, that's how bad it
Oh
was.
my God, dude. Jesus. You need to come. Another topic we'll talk about is we got to get you. That's my next deep dive. Is we've got to really understand this crazy weird animosity for being a nerd. Yet deep down inside, you're a closeted nerd, is what I like to say. Not as much now. I mean, your wedding cake was a Magic the Gathering card. So you know, but it's very interesting, David. I'm always fascinated by that. So you know what all this leads up to, man? At the end of the day, I cannot wait to play D&D with you, David. That's the exciting thing. For a man who believes the power of magic inside his story, who is a writer and a novelist, I can't wait for you to play this dang game, dude. The man who can create stories at his own control. That'll be a magical day for me.
I'm actively looking forward to it. I really am. Because D&D wasn't something I didn't want to get into because I didn't like it. I mean, I played Warhammer 40K for like a year. So,
Did you really?
Yeah. I thought you knew this already.
No. Man, we got to unpack this nerd side of you, dude. We've got to unpack this nerd side of you, my dude. Oh my God, David. Interesting. Well, David, as always, I've learned so much about you in this one topic, which is why I was kind of excited to talk about it, because we've never talked about it in our friendship. I don't know where you stand in the world of magic, you know what I mean? And I know that you'll never go watch Doctor Strange 2, which is sad because we'll never talk about all the cool cameos that are in it. But, you know, I'm glad to learn about your deep-seated love for fantasy and all that kind of stuff. So we've reached that part of the show, sadly, David. We've come to the end, and now this is the time for reflection, my dude. This is the part where I sum up what I've learned about you during the course of this podcast. You know what I mean? And this is the part where the music kicks in. Maybe I'll make it magical and whimsical, David, not the typical one that we do. How about that?
I actually love the typical music.
I do too, but I want to get something whimsical going for this one. So I'll piss you off. I'll try to pick the most Magic the Gathering sounding music possible. Okay. So this was a great conversation and highly unexpected for me, David, because I did not expect to actually grasp one of your concepts, which is saying a lot, because sometimes you say things, I don't know what you're talking about. But this time, I really feel like I've come to learn something about you, which is, I view the world through my own eyes, through my own lens, and I think that magic is defined by hey, when you're a child, you watch tricks and you get mystified and you imagine. And you remind me that the interpretation of magic as a concept can be so different between somebody. You know what I'm saying? For some crazy reason, it is shocking to me that violence is your gateway to magic or feeling magical or food or an idea. Also, that is just a beautiful concept. Even for someone like you who is very scientific, very knowledgeable, filled with wisdom, you can still find the unexplainable feelings of magic inside of things. And again, ranging from tacos to the Three Stooges fighting themselves out in a physical form of violence, you somehow find magic in that. And to me, that's amazing that's where you see it. That's where your life revolves around. I think we got to talk about your violence issues. Lots of stuff to unpack there in the future, my dude. But for now, I think it's absolutely beautiful that even in something like that, that's your key. That's where you find beauty, whether it be something of a floating concept or, like you said, the magic of sports. Very beautiful that you can still see it in there, David. And that is truly inspiring and gives me hope for you in the future, which makes me really, really happy, my dude, that we'll get you on that nerd train and we'll start having you play D&D very soon and really experience all kinds of magic. And maybe one day we can go check out a Penn and Teller show, because that would be pretty dope.
Oh, was I supposed to respond? Yeah, I didn't. I was just kind of at a loss.
There you go, David, you beautiful, beautiful, violent human being. I absolutely love you, and I've learned quite a bit about your path to how you get there. Again, sometimes it takes a while for the train to pull into the station, but when it gets there, David, I'm always impressed how we got there together. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Thank you so much for staying with us. We hope that you come back. If you like what you heard, please don't forget to share, give us those 5 stars, give us a review. If you leave us 5 stars and a good review, we'll read it on the podcast. If you give us 5 stars and a bad review, we'll probably still read it on the podcast, because sometimes we just want to get roasted. If you have an idea for a topic of conversation, or you'd like some advice, or you want to bring up an idea that we should talk about, you can email us at recthepod@gmail.com. That's recthepod@gmail.com. You can also hit us up on Twitter at recthepod as well. And hopefully coming soon, Instagram and TikTok as well. We hope you enjoyed the show. David, any final thoughts before we leave our audience today?
Please go watch Trespass.
Please go watch Trespass and check out Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness, out in theaters now. It's not a paid show or sponsorship by it. I just want to bring up those dang Google Trends and make us get on the dang market. I'm selling out, ladies and gentlemen. So with that, thank you so much. My name is Brian Ortiz.
My name is David Castillo.
And we hope to see you here next time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. David, I'm going to go take a shower, because this whole time I have been sweating like a goddamn pig because it is so hot outside still. God damn it, I hate this weather, and I hate Texas sometimes.
Does your AC not work?
I can't when we're recording. I got to turn it off. I'm basting in juices, my dude. I am dying here, David. Dying. Oh my God.
Is this still part of the show?
Absolutely. Go take a shower, people, because it's too hot. It's hotter than Satan's butthole in Texas, and I hate being here during these times. I love you. We'll talk to you later. Peace out, everyone. Life's a Wreck is an FC podcast production created by Brian Ortiz and David Castillo, recorded in our homes and edited by me, Brian Ortiz. Theme song and outro by Hard Power USA. Check them out on SoundCloud. And please let us know what you think about the show by rating us and leaving a comment. You can also email us topics of discussion for future episodes at recthepod@gmail.com. That's recthepod@gmail.com. Hey, thanks for listening to our little slice of the podcast world, and we'll see you at the next episode. Thanks for stopping.